Let's bring in former FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Galliano and Jonathan Bush. Why? Co-founder of Athena Health, CEO of Zeus Health, understands this man's role in this world. Now, first of all, thank you both, fellas. Jimmy, do you think this is a pro? Do you think this is a guy that could have been paid to do this? Or do you think it's someone who's mimicking a pro to the untrained eye, but you see distinctions?
Chris, I do see distinctions, and I think if you look at it from this perspective, there's a lot of ways to game plan this thing. You talked about standoff. Obviously, in combat, you want standoff. You don't want to be close to somebody, and that's why rifles are preferable. In this instance, if this had been a hired assassin, somebody that had done this a number of times, I think there would have been a closing of the distance. We know from what the police have said is that he had a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. It appears that there was a suppressor, and I've heard it incorrectly stated that it's a silencer, but a suppressor, so it basically reduces the sound intensity, which kind of made it unwieldy. As you see him moving and closing in on Thompson, you can see he has to 3 times try to clear out what could have been a jam related to a stovepipe where, you know, a shell casing doesn't eject completely or a round gets caught up behind another round before the firing pin can come forward. Yeah, Chris, you know, he's very calm, cool, collected. You can tell by his gait, he's unhurried. It's interesting that he chose this particular time in this particular moment. We know that Thompson had been in town since Monday, so I'm assuming the assassin had an idea of what his schedule was. But to wait at this period of time in the morning, you know, just before rush hour's beginning, Chris, it's befuddling. His getaway seemed to do a good job with that, going on the right streets and heading towards Central Park. Why is that key? The vast majority of the island of Manhattan is blanketed by cameras, whether they belong to the PD or whether or not they belong to a grocery store owner or a bodega owner. But to be in Central Park with all of the expanse of the green spaces, a good place for the killer to go to.
Johnny, your perspective on what this guy meant in the business, why he'd be a target, the information about the insider trading investigation, the suggestions from the wife that people were pissed off. You coordinate that with the mean tweets of people calling that assassin a hero. Tell us about the climate and the concerns with somebody like this.
Well, obviously one theory, Chris, is that this is literally shooting the messenger. What is a health plan? It's the messenger. It's the guy who takes all the costs of the hospitals and the drugs and the Ozempics, rolls it up, attaches it to the actuary and says, hey, next year it's going to be this number, right? This is open enrollment. This quarter is when people get their new bills for what healthcare is going to be next year. And so obviously one theory here is that there's an outraged, disgruntled child of a cancer patient, et cetera, who's received a rate increase and is complaining. Obviously, the cost of care, the percentage that United gets for being the underwriter or the manager of the network, the payer of the claims, is tiny compared to all the other pieces. So, but when you see your bill, it's got the United logo on it. So obviously one theory here is that somebody was driven over the brink by the usual, as you described it, oh, they screw us. They don't screw you. I mean, they do their best to make money, but they're rolling up the costs of hospitals that are forming vertical monopolies in New York and drug companies that are keeping their patents longer than they should and all the other things going on in healthcare.
If you don't put
but I think it's important to remember this is a guy running a Fortune 60 company, Chris. Right. This isn't a national icon. This is an American icon at a time when old Vladimir Putin is at 35% of his entire budget on defense. His inflation is 20%, and he's going kinetic all over the world. You had the DHL jet crashing in Vilnius. You have the trains in the Czech Republic. You have the assassination attempt on a different CEO in Germany of an arms manufacturer. There's plenty of interest in taking American icons and making them pot-stirring mechanisms, getting people saying horrible things on Twitter, as we've seen, these tragic, you know, horrible statements by people about this nice father and husband. You know, it's worth noting there's a theory here that isn't just heartbreak about the cost of health care, but is more cynical attack on all of us by picking off a lovely guy on his way to an investor meeting.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.